Hey all, this is Meeker here, back with another video. This one's going to be on a new experimental build that I've been messing around with a little bit on a live patch that I think will be really good in the PTR of heavy Great Axe SNS. It's something that one of you guys recommended, and I tried it out, and it feels really, really good, and on paper it seems very, very solid. The base idea behind this build is you have 45% AoE weaken that you apply to clumps. Give your team 30% fortify. You have decent CC, as well as like group debuff combos, and you have 16k HP, which for SNS is generally enough. With other SNS builds, you usually go to 20k HP, and for that you lose 200 attributes, and I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. And this is a build that can kind of compensate for that. And on top of that, Maelstrom could eat projectiles coming into point, which could be useful in the next meta. In terms of what you want on your Great Axe, there's a few decent ones that have dropped in recent events that you can farm, but the base idea is you want enfeabling, Maelstrom, and then the other perks are preference. I think thwarting strikes generally makes sense because you'll have 300 con with this setup, but you don't necessarily need that. You could do something like play crits, where you try to apply more disease, or you can do something more damage oriented depending on your preference, but that enfeabling Maelstrom is really, really important. On SNS, what you want Plague Strikes, I think, and then the other two perks are preference. Before I would do a Plague Strikes Trenchant Rend sword, but Rend is so weak next patch, I don't think that's necessarily the best thing you can get. I also think something like Shadow's Edge is pretty solid just because it's really good damage if someone's trying to run away from you. This build is like very much so that you will get them on the counter. You absorb their pressure, and then when they leave, that's when you kind of go for your damage, and it works very effectively at that. In terms of perks that you want on your armor, I think piece resil makes a lot of sense. 5-piece aversion makes a lot of sense just with next meta in general, and then the rest I would say is preference. In terms of perks that you're kind of looking for, fortifying shield rush, even though it is nerfed, I still think is a decent perk to get. And there's a few other like great Axe perks like the crippling reap. I think is not bad with this build. With this build in particular, you are able to not have to run charge because you can run leaping strikes to get out, and that kind of enables you to do reap, maelstrom, and grav. So you're pretty much the ultimate on the point grouper machine and like kind of debuff bot. It's really feels really really fluid, feels pretty solid in terms of OPR. And it can be a little bit hard to get away with people without that charge, but in terms of playing on the point or in a ball group, I think you have plenty of mobility with leaping strike in order to get out or get in. I know the person that originally made this build liked Defender's Resolve. I am not a big fan of Defender's Resolve because it's a really long cooldown, it's a really long animation, it tends to get stripped by Oblivion really easily. I think if you're versus a competent army, that perk has null value, but versus an army that does not counter that perk, the Defender's Resolve definitely can carry you. And if you're going to go that perk, I would definitely drop Shield Bash, but Shield Bash feels pretty good to me. It's a 3-second stun with the extra 1 second being non-affected by freedom, which makes it really, really solid. And yeah, I think the SNS tree I'll put up on your screen now, but it's pretty much what I have run from normal SNS, and then you just kind of move it over. In terms of Great Axe, the tree is a bit weirder. I think this could be messed with a bit. I don't go the final perk on Reap just because I don't think it's necessary, and it tends to launch people in a little bit further when you don't go for that gravity for some reason. But you're primarily looking to grab mages or people, particularly without grit, with your Reap. You kind of lock them in between your SNS and your Greatsword, and you apply weaken to everyone around you, and with your Maelstrom and with your Shield Rush. That is the base idea behind this build, is you kind of group people up, and then you apply all your weakens, and then you kind of sit there with your shield up and kind of tank the damage if it's coming at your way. If there's not damage coming at your way, you can swing with the SNS if people are turning their backs to you, and you have something like Shadow's Edge with Rogue and Enchanted, you'll do a lot of damage that way. Or if they don't have their backs to you, you could just swing with your Great Axe and play like you're a normal Bruiser. I would tend to run this in heavy specifically because of the armor ratings. There is a situation where if you run this in medium, you'll be at lower armor class, or in light, you'll be at lower armor class. I think it still could work in those setups to a degree, to like this concept, but you would need to change the perk significantly, and you would not be able to play to tank as much damage. It would be more of a DPS oriented build. I'm not 100% sure that works. The other nice part about this setup is you get access to that Mauler's Resolve, so you get that extra stam, which you can really use to great effect with the SNS, where you get the extra stam, gets you above that threshold that you need, and then you put your shield back up. In terms of what you're looking for on your shield, I think sturdy, some sort of ward like slash ward or fire ward is generally best. And the sturdy fortification, even though it's heavily nerfed, I still think it's a generally a good thing to go. You could go shield rush on your shield. I know some people that on SNS found a particular sword that is farmable that you can get sturdy on that I should put up on your screen now, but it's kind of a RNG drop and not super common. But there are ways to get around this. You just want to you basically get to have preference in terms of you do want your SNS to be offensive or very defensive, and your shield would be kind of slotted accordingly. I think it makes a lot of sense to run ward on the shield no matter what, though, because the ward will be old fortified for next patch as it stands right now. So I think it's just really, really solid in general. In terms of what you want on your amulet, not a lot of surprises here. You want health protection, so fire protection slash protection, maybe even thrust protection, and then I think stam recovery or divine. Divine is in particular is pretty good with SNS. Stam recovery is also pretty good with SNS and is also really good with Great Axe. So I think there's preference there. It doesn't really matter which one you go. In terms of your ring, I think Hearty, Enfeabling, and then Refreshing Ward or Invig Punishment is pretty good. There is a farmable ring that is pretty close to that you can get as well. I'll put that up on your screen. In terms of the earring, I think you tend to go for teardrop or you go for refreshing toast, regen, and purifying toast. I think refreshing ward is my preference though, and that's where I like teardrop a little bit more, but the purifying toast seems like it could be pretty decent next patch on paper. In terms of what you want on your ult, I think you want the stalwart firestorm or vines. The vines, in terms of since they're all nerfed, is a little bit awkward. They'll provide a weaken, which is why I think they're decent. So I'd still probably go the leaching vines. I don't think killing stoneform would be bad either to get that grit on your Maelstrom and on your Grav, so that could be another option. There's a lot of like flexibility with this combo. That the base idea is very easy to execute. It's very easy to hit the weekends. People don't die when everyone is weakened around you, and you're giving them fort cap basically with one build alone. This is a way to basically guarantee that the clump will be in your favor significantly if you run this build, and it feels pretty good on live and pretty I imagine it will be even better on PTR. Even when I'm running this without the grit on live, it feels pretty solid. In terms of like where this would be slotted in the army, I think it's not bad to slot it as a point group. As a point tank, I still think the other variants could be a little bit better, but I think this is still a really solid one. The main thing that makes it really interesting is uh, the Reap. The Reap is like weirdly really good at pulling healers halfway across the map on the point and then they just instantly die, or some sort of mage that's unsuspecting. It's really easy to catch people out with it. It feels really solid overall, to be honest, and the SNS is just there to provide value to your team as a whole. I think there is an option still to go Ice Gauntlet or to go Void Gauntlet, but keep in mind that if you do go the Great Axe, you will get a lot of inherent value from having that as well, and you don't sacrifice much. I think there is also an option for this to replace the typical Great Axe of Warhammer build that people have been running for a long time, simply because Warhammer does not have a lot going for it next patch. In terms of like what Warhammer would typically run, you'd want to run Shockwave, Wrecking Ball, and Path of Destiny before people considered Armor Breaker, but the rend is so bad next patch that I don't think it makes sense to run. I'll throw the calculator for what Rend actually does in the description and what the new Fortify actually does, but basically new Rend and new Fortify is not worth prioritizing, which is why SNS is coming up as being such a predominantly useful weapon in general because it has access to 30% global AoE old Fortify. It seems really, really good. The Warhammer itself provides good crowd control, but it doesn't do much more than that, and people will get interrupted from your crowd control up right away. The best part about Warhammer by far right now is the Wrecking Ball, and the Fortify on the Wrecking Ball itself is not even useful anymore, so it doesn't feel like Warhammer has a lot going for it, and in general is outclassed by other weapons as of next patch, due to the entire kit of it being nerfed, the prevalence of passive freedom that is being given to everyone, and the lack of CC duration extension on the 300 con perk, which is what you would have had if we did not get the strength, if we did the 300 strength passive moved to 300 con. So in general, this seems like a build that has the potential to replace some other builds. It seems really, really fun. I have some gameplay up on the screen of recent wars, and I might throw in a little bit of some OPRs, but it seems really solid, and I would recommend giving it a try if you haven't tried it. and I would look forward to playing it next patch. I'd say this build is between A and B tier from a ball perspective, maybe low S. It's like somewhere in that range. I'd probably stick with A. It's like definitely one of the ones that seems really, really solid on paper. And then from a point perspective, I would still put it in high A to low S tier. It seems really good in most regards, provides a lot of value. I'm just not sure if Great Axe is the best secondary or not, but you don't doesn't seem like you lose that much from dropping 4,000 HP with SNS, and you gain a lot of utilf. So that's it for this one, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.